Making small adjustments to a sequence clip's in or out points is called trimming, and it's at the heart of the fine cutting process. Now, there are several ways to trim clips in the timeline. We'll concentrate on the most essential, dragging with the mouse. And by now, you won't be surprised to learn that the same principles behind drag and drop editing and moving clips in the timeline also apply to trimming, as do the same keyboard modifiers. So, I've opened a project called Trimming. It contains a portion of a rough cut. So far, so good, but it could use some fine-tuning. Many of the cuts in this sequence are supposed to be synchronized with music, which contains clip markers at key moments, like right here. This interview starts at this moment in time, and that's where I want it to start. But I see a problem. Let me show you.
My name's Matt.
He says, before he introduces himself. I'd like to trim off that bit of sound. So to trim frames, I just position the mouse pointer over the clip's edge, and the mouse icon will automatically change to the trim tool. When the trim tool looks like this, like a closed bracket, it's set to trim the out point of the clip, sometimes called the tail. If I move the tool slightly, the trim tool looks like this, like an open bracket, and that means it's set to trim the in point, sometimes called the head of the clip. Before I do the edit I described, I'll trim the tail of the first clip. I'll do that by just dragging with the mouse. Notice I get feedback in a tooltip, that little yellow marker, and I can see how the image is being changed in the program monitor. There. See how it leaves a gap? Trimming works like a lift edit. Now I'll trim it forward again. Note that I can't trim it past the head of the next clip. So I could remove frames and trimming acts like a lift. And I can add frames so long as I'm adding them into an empty area. It won't let me overwrite another clip or do an overlay edit. Now I'll go ahead and trim the in point of the interview shot and shave off that sound. I'll just position the mouse pointer so it looks like an open bracket and then drag. Again, I get feedback in the form of a yellow tooltip, and I can also see the new in point in the program monitor. I'll drag until I see him purse his lips so that he's about to say, "My name is," and let go of the mouse. Again, trimming works like a lift edit. It leaves a gap. I'll play the clip to see if I accomplish my goal.
My name's Matt Bovard.
Good. Now, since it left a gap, I'll need to get rid of that. I can do that by right-clicking and choosing Ripple Delete. And you can see that all the subsequent clips shift back in time. Here's my new edit.
My name's Matt Bovard.
That's better. But if you remember how insert and extract edits work, you can guess what I'll do next. I'll undo the Ripple Delete. And I'll undo the trim edit. Now I'll position the mouse over the clip again. I'll start with the tail of the first clip. This time I'll press Command on a Mac or Control on Windows. See how the mouse icon changes? I'll drag this clip back and see what happens. When I dragged, it shortened the clip and extracted the gap. It has a ripple effect, and that's why we call it a ripple edit. Now I'll make the clip longer. Again, I'll hold down Command for a Mac or Control on Windows and move it forward. And again, it has a ripple effect. So trimming with the Command key on a Mac or the Control key on Windows works like a ripple delete when you make the clip shorter, or it works like an insert edit when you lengthen the clip. I'll undo that edit. Now I'll make my same edit again using the Ripple Edit tool. I'll hold the mouse over the cut, hold down the Command key on a Mac or Control key on Windows, and trim. Again, my goal is to get rid of the sound. When I release the mouse, I've trimmed the clip and removed the gap simultaneously. Here's that edit.
My name's Matt Bovard.
And that's what I wanted. Here's another example. I'll go further down the timeline to these shots. The first shot shows the surfer catching a wave. And so does the second shot, but it's a different shot from a different angle. I'll ripple edit the tail of the first shot. I'll move the mouse to the out point, hold down Command on Mac or Control on Windows, and trim back. I'll use the visual feedback in the program monitor to choose my edit point. I'll pick a point where he's just about to stand up. There. When I release the mouse, the later clips ripple back in time. Now I'll ripple edit the next shot to a comparable point in time. I'll move the mouse pointer over the in point, hold down the Command key on Mac or Control key on Windows, and drag forward until I see this surfer about to stand up. Something like that. And a ripple edit is performed. Now I'll watch the edit. Not bad. This is referred to as cutting on the action, and it can help edits seem a lot smoother. I could have done this with a regular trim, but it would have taken more steps.